Today is Saturday, 9th March 2024. Happy Mahashivratri, weekend of celebrations to one and all, and welcome to this recap video for our Bhagavad Gita study session from today. Along with me here is Mummy.
Radhe Radhe.
You'll see that after our usual recap quiz covering last time's content, chapter 8, verse 16, we then covered chapter 8, verses 17 and 18. As always, please go through the quiz questions and get familiar with them, try your hand at them. And now let's listen to chapter 8, verse 17.
Sahasrayug pareyantam aharyat brahmano viduhu ratrim yug sahasrantam teho ratravido janaha.
So chapter 8, verse 17, the catchphrase here is Brahma's day, a very, very large amount of time and something new that we got introduced to today. In fact, we got introduced to the largest unit of time in the world. Lots of mathematical calculations or numbers here. We demonstrated in class as well. The key idea is one day of Brahma, which is known as a kalp, is as long as 1,000 cycles of the 4 ages known as the Mahayug. So the 4 yugas make up a Mahayug. And likewise, his nighttime. So the daytime and the nighttime, they each have the same length. Combined, that completes the full day of Brahma, daytime plus nighttime. And Sri Krishna says that those who are wise, who know this information, and then they can understand that reality about day and night. We actually demonstrated the calculations in class on the calculator. Maybe I'll quickly show those again. But if you recall, 432,000, the length of Kali Yuga. Dwapar Yuga is twice that length. Treta Yuga, thrice of Kali Yuga. Satya Yuga, 4 times that of Kali Yuga. If you add 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4, you get 10. So a Mahayug is 10 times the length of Kali Yuga. So that is 4,320,000. And then there are 1,000 such Mahayugs that make up Brahma's day. That's the number here, 4,320,000,000. But remember, for the celestial gods and beyond, their year is equal to 360 of our years. So you multiply that by 360. And then also, that's just the day time. We also have the night length, which is the same. So you multiply by 2. And then finally, Brahma's lifespan itself is 100 such years. Therefore, as you see on the screen live, that is 311 trillion 40 billion years in Earth calculations. That is the lifespan of Brahma. Again, academic facts, not that you have to memorize, but really for the crux and context of what we have to understand from here. It's difficult to fathom, so Swamiji introduces us to the analogy of the insects. We learned the word incredulous to add to our English vocabularies or dictionaries. Insects, if they knew, they're only there for about a night. And if they find out that we as humans have lifespans of 80, 90, 100 years, they would find it very, very hard to believe. Therefore, that is incredulous. Likewise, we find it incredulous hearing and learning about the length of Brahma's day or lifespan. Now, we talked a little bit about Brahma, of course, discharging his duties, and at the end of his lifespan, then, of course, he's given complete God realization. He's free from the realm of Maya, which is also prevalent in Brahmalok or Satya, as we saw last time. And Swamiji says if some soul is not eligible to take Brahma's position the next time creation is happening, then God himself becomes Brahma. Mummy had explained in class the real takeaways, though, from a deeper meaning perspective. We'll get to that momentarily. Next up, we're going to see chapter 8, verse 18.
Avyakvad vyakta sarvaha prabhavantya haragame ratriagame praliyante tatraiva vyakta sanyake.
So chapter 8, verse 18, the catchphrase here is dawn to dusk. We learned about just like a child, for instance, plays with his or her toys. Lego we mentioned as an example for many of us. This is this process of creation and dissolution. that Brahma is involved in as well. So Sri Krishna says at the start of Brahma's day, there is the complete manifestation, all living beings coming out from their unmanifest source. And then when that daytime period is done, the very, very long period, of course, then at the fall of his night, so that second part, same length as the day, the nighttime period, that is when we go back to the unemerged, unmanifest state, the original unmanifest source. We talked briefly about three new terms, perhaps, Srishti, Sthiti, and Pralaya, creation, preservation, and dissolution. We also mentioned that we'll see more details about them in next time's verse and even later in the Bhagavad Gita through Swamiji's commentary. But at this time, we have learned so far in chapter 8, verse 18 about Naimitik Pralaya, so partial dissolution at the end of Brahma's day, so that Kalp, 4,320,000,000 years, there is partial dissolution up to the abode called Maharlok. And then there is complete dissolution, that is when the entire universe is dissolved. That happens at the end of Brahma's life, which is that 100-year duration. So in that case, we also made the reference. We'll show you chapter 7, verse 4, we had encouraged you to go back to, where we had talked about the sequence of creation as well as dissolution, where today we see in the commentary, the process for dissolution, we have the Panch Mahabhut merging back into the Panch Tanmatras. They then merge back into Ahankar, Ahankar into Mahan, and Mahan finally into Prakriti. So that sequence again, if you remember in the opposite direction, we had seen that in chapter 7, verse 4. We do encourage you to go back there, get familiar with the components of the material energy, and of course, the sequence and more detail on those different terms. Back here, chapter 8, verse 18, we have seen then, of course, that when Mahavishnu, that's when we come across a new term, perhaps, but we'll see much more about it in a later verse in Swamiji's commentary. But really, it is Mahavishnu breathing, creating innumerable universes, and following that specific sequence, all happening by a glance at the material energy, Prakriti. Innumerable universes, each one has its own Brahma, Vishnu, and Shankar performing their various duties. And of course, all Vishnus in the universe are expansions of Mahavishnu. As I mentioned, we'll see much more detail about those different forms and expansions at a later stage. Mummy, over to you.
Thank you, Gagan. I will just talk about the deeper symbolic meaning of these verses. First, let's talk about verse number 17. So, this shloka, it re-emphasizes that every action we perform always bears fruit, but not necessarily in the current lifetime. As we have seen, the whole system is so detailed and so complex and for so many years. So for us, it is very difficult to even understand. So we may try and try hard, but the result of our action may not show up in this lifetime. It may bear fruit in another lifetime. Sometimes there could be very favorable or unfavorable situations that we land in, and we think, what did we do to deserve this? So these type of results are due to actions that we may have performed in a prior lifetime. So this is the greater symbolic meaning of this verse. Another aspect is that we have to learn to cultivate this passion or vairagya towards this world. Shri Krishna tells us that nothing will last forever. Everything will eventually end. If not now, then certainly in 4.32 billion years. So it is better to cultivate this passion right now and proceed on the path of spirituality. Now for verse number 18, let's see, I could think or find out some analogy that how this whole universe is being created by God. And then it goes back into the same unmanifest state where it sprung from. The whole universe is born out of Lord Brahma, and then goes back into him. The analogy is like this, that this entire animated movie lies unmanifest in the reel of the film. It's from a movie theater, we can get this analogy. When the movie begins, someone loads the film into the projector and turns the projector on. Then the bright white movie screen comes alive with all the characters in the movie. When the reel of the film ends, all the movie characters are dissolved from the white screen. The process is repeated next time, and so on and so forth. So this is what we basically, from here we understand that things are all kept in that reel. Similarly, this universe is never really destroyed. It goes into a state of suspended animation, only to be unfrozen when the next day of Brahma begins. It is consistent with the law of conservation of energy and matter. Neither energy nor matter is created or destroyed. They just transform from one state to another. So similarly, we know that every action that we perform always yields a result sooner or later. So we realize that this universe works on a well-defined set of laws. Nothing is random. This is what is the more symbolic meaning of these verses, that we need to learn the impermanence of this world and understand the real complex structure God has made for this whole universe, how all the Panch Bhutas are corresponding with the Panch Tanmatras. Panch Bhutas are all the gross elements, Panch Tanmatras are our sensory organs. God has given us Gyanendriyas, Karmendriyas, and we have Man, Buddhi, Chit, Ahankar. With all this whole system works, and it continues for many lifetimes, cycles. And so it's always whatever we do now, it bears fruit in any lifetime. So it's better to cultivate dispassion, vairagya, and move on the path of spirituality. With that, over to you, Gagan.
Thank you, Mommy. Or maybe back to you still. Any important Sanskrit words you would like us to take away from here?
So one word is Prabhavanti. Prabhavanti means emanate. Everything emanates from that Mahavishnu. And this is from verse 18. And from verse 17, the word is Aharatra Vidaha. Aharatra Vidaha means those who know his day and night. I hope we can, it's very difficult, but with this verse, we can at least understand how big God's day and night are. Over to you, Gagan.
Yeah, thank you, Mommy. And in fact, with that final wrapping up comment, so just to connect again, you all saw in class as well the flyer. What's the long and short of the largest unit of time in the world? We saw today, of course, Kalp, Brahma's day. We went short, of course, just a day perhaps, but length, duration, the entire discussion of it, of course, we've covered the long and short. But the greater point now ahead being that in terms of time, there's also a time change coming up. So wanted to just make that connection and announcement to everybody, starting when we meet next time. So that will be Saturday, 16th March, 2024. Same time for participants in North America. So if you're meeting us at 8 a.m. Central Time, we'll meet you at 8 a.m. Central Time. But in India, it will then be 6:30 p.m. Currently 7:30 p.m., but it will then be 6:30 p.m. So from Saturday, 16th March, 2024, please be aware of the time change for most, if not all, participants outside of North America due to daylight saving time. Till then, happy studying and spiritual journeys. Have a wonderful Mahashivratri weekend once again. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.